I'm going to do something now which is wrong, probably, and it will upset many people, but I'm going to do it anyway. Now, why would somebody do something which is likely wrong and going to upset people? It's kind of foolish. Because I feel like I don't have a choice. I want to explain something to you that has to do with elokus, godliness, hishtalshalos. And I need to use a mashal, an illustration, an example. But there really isn't one. There is not a mashal that would comprehensively represent the idea that I need to share. So I'm going to invent one. I'm going to make up a mashal which is partially brought in Chassidus. Some would say that all of it is brought in Chassidus if you look at the various different sources. Others would say, no, this isn't true in Chassidus. And each one could bring proofs, pro and con. I am not going into proofs. I'm not going to attempt to convince you that what I'm saying says in Memmale Chassidus. I am certainly not going to convince you that what I'm about to say can be proven as physically being true. I am simply going to present it to you. In other words, I'm sharing with you a mashal, which either is or is not accurate, because the nimshal is accurate. This that it is a mashal for, the idea that it's coming to represent, is true. And because I don't have an example, an illustration that could serve my purpose completely, I'm going to do this. And what I want to say now is, this is my last apology. I'm not apologizing again. From here on out, I'm going to explain it. And when you sitting 12 minutes into this class and saying, where did he take that from and what right does he have to imagine it? Go back to this, because I'm only apologizing once. I'm starting today's class with an example. And the example is the sun, the physical sun. The sun, for the purposes of this conversation, is an essence. The meaning of the word essence, the Hebrew word, of course, is Etzem. In English, it's translated as essence. The meaning of the word essence is that it exists entirely in relationship with itself. That means, in other words, the sun produces no visible light. As an essence, it is, so to speak, figuratively, completely curled up into itself, and even light is not radiating from that essence. To use the Hebrew terminology, Etzem bilti misgale, Etzem bilti mispashet. An essence says nothing. A being, an existence, that exists entirely in relationship with itself, reveals nothing. It's too busy being busy with itself for it to communicate anything to anybody outside of itself, because there is a principle which we talked about last week, that kol gilui is helem ha'atzmi. Anytime something is revealed, it's less than the essence. You cannot reveal the whole essence. You can only reveal what is less than the essence. If we're dealing with an essence, it reveals nothing. So the sun, which is an essence, reveals nothing. Around the sun, there is something called nartek hashemes, a sheath, a shield of the sun. This shield and this sheath around the sun has an effect on the light which radiates from the sun. What the sheath and the shield does to the sun is that it translates the sun's light, which is dark, which is invisible, like the sun itself is dark, into what's called Eira Meir, visible light. In other words, there is an essence, which we're calling the sun, that produces radiation, it produces light. But since we're dealing with an essence, and the essence is dark, the light which radiates from that essence is equally dark, is choshuch, is also not revealed. And the reason the light which radiates from that essence is not revealed is, like I said earlier, to reveal something you have to reduce it and diminish it. An essence is not in the business of revealing, it's not in the business of diminishing. But around the sun there is a sheath, a shield. The nartek hashemesh, the sheath and shield around the sun, has an effect on the light. The effect of the sheath and the shield on the light is that as the light comes through the sheath, some of it begins to radiate. It becomes it becomes visible light. It becomes what we call revealed light, visible light. Some of it emerges in the same state as it was before the shield. It's also black. It came from the source is dark, the light is equally dark, and some of it comes through the sheath unchanged, but some of it is changed by this nartik, by this sheath around the sun, from being choshuch, from being black, to being oirameir, visible, revealed light. In Chassidus, there is a philosophical explanation for how this transition takes place, and in short, briefly, the transition takes place because the nartek hashemesh, the sheath and shield around the sun, separates the light. It does a form of diffraction, a form of separating the light. But what is the nature of the separation? So Chassidus explains it as follows. Light has two characteristics. The two characteristics of light as they're understood in Chassidus, this is not physics, are in effect the neshama and guf, the soul and the body of the light. The soul of the light is bittul. The neshama of oyer is dveikus. The soul, the identity, the purpose of light is to represent its source to the degree that it has no identity of its own. In as much as it's representing the source, and the source is an Etzem, the source communicates nothing, the light doesn't communicate anything either. The guf, the body of light, the chitzonius, the secondary component of light, is that it reveals the source. Whatever exists in the source is revealed in the light. As I'm sure you've heard the terminology, light reflects the source. What of the source does the light reflect? Everything. Just like we say, chochmas adam toyer panav, that a person's face reveals the whole essence of the human being. If you know how to read it, the light of the sun, the light of any lumen, of any source, reveals everything about it. So, when the light leaves the source, before it hits the sheath, the nartik around the sun, it is like the sun itself. The sun is an etzem, the sun is dark. The light is in a state of dveikus in its source. So although it's leaving the source, it's also choshoch, it's also black, it's also dark, because of its connectedness, its dveikus to the source. What the sheath is doing is it's separating the mehus from the metzias. It's separating the neshama from the guf. It's separating the pnimius from the chitzonius. That means to say, the effect it has on the oyer is that the bittul aspect, the dveikus aspect of the oyer is diminished. And because the bittul and the dveikus aspect of the oyer is diminished, the giloy aspect emerges and you have visible light. So when you see sunlight, you're seeing sunlight which is reflecting the sun, but it's not simple. Because if the sunlight were reflecting the sun absolutely, you wouldn't see it. You're only able to see it because a change has taken place between how it emerged from the sun and how it emerges from the nartik hashemesh, from the sheath around the sun, that the sheath has partially divided the oyer, removing the bittul, the pnimius, and allowing the chitzonius to become separated, and therefore it's oyer meir. So does sunlight reflect the sun entirely? The answer is yes and no. It reflects the sun in the metzias. Every quality that exists in the sun exists in the light. But it's no longer reflecting the sun in the mehus. The sun is not by itself producing visible light. This light of the sun has lost the bittul aspect of its connection to the source, and therefore it's revealing it ameir. Now this sunlight, which has now been made into a state of gilui, it's white light, that has within itself everything the source has. To use a physical form, every single wavelength of light exists in the whiteness of the sun's light as it emerges from the sheath, but at least it's revealed. It's revealed light. Millions of miles later, this sunlight enters into our atmosphere and lights up and warms up the atmosphere. And then sometimes it encounters clouds. And if the clouds are in the right thickness, they allow the sun's light to come through in a diffracted way, in a split way. And those of us on earth see a rainbow. A rainbow basically is all of the wavelengths, all of the colors that existed in sunlight in a way of achdus, in a way of unity, become split. And they're arranged to our perception in the order of their wavelengths, where you'll have the blue on one extreme and the red on the opposite extreme. And of course, our understanding is that we only see certain colors. There is a red which we cannot see because the wavelength is too long. It's called infrared. There is a blue which we cannot see because the wavelength which is too short, which is called ultraviolet. So there's actually many more colors, many more wavelengths, but there's a spectra of colors which we're able to see. And the light has been changed because of the prism, because of the clouds, from being white light that has all of the colors in the rainbow in a unified state into being divided individual colors. Here again, Chassidus says something which, as far as I know, is not said and understood in physics, that when the light hits the cloud and it comes through, there are again two things here, not one thing. It isn't only that the cloud breaks up the light into many colors. There's actually two components to the light. Just like I explained to you how the dark light has a neshama and a guf, the revealed white light also has a neshama and a guf. The neshama of light, the soul of light, which makes light be light, that it should reflect its source and all of the faculties that the source possess in a unified way, all the colors in the rainbow as one, is called in Hebrew Oir ha'oila al kulona, which means the light that's above all. And then there are the individual wavelengths, individual colors. In other words, according to Chassidus, white light is not simply a collection of various different colors, of various different wavelengths. White light is a collection of various different colors, of various different wavelengths, plus another component that acts as the glue, that acts as the unifier, that acts, if you will, as the whitener. The reason in white light you don't see any colors isn't only because the colors are all mixed together, but there's something above the colors that makes them fuse, join. And therefore, when white light is made into a rainbow, there are again two steps in the tzimtzum. Number one, when the light hits the cloud absorbs the Eira El Kulana. It takes away the glue, the unifying factor. And by removing the Eira El Kulana, the gavnim, the colors, disperse, are mitchalek, they divide up, and you see them as many different colors. This is the mashal. According to the mashal as I just described it to you, we have three ideas, possibly four. The first idea is something that I'm going to call, for the purposes of our conversation, black light. Black light means light which is so concentrated and so attached, mystically speaking, philosophically speaking, to its source, that as the source is dark, it also is dark. Then this black light goes through a tzimtzum that involves the two aspects of removing the bittul and bringing forward the gilui, which produces white light. White light still reflects the source completely, but at least it reveals the source. That the source, which is by itself an Etzem, which is dark, because of the light, because of the tzimtzum, is now not only reflecting the source, but reflecting the source in a way that it's visible, you can see it. And then the third step is where the white light is broken up into various colors. And here again we say that there's two tzimtzumim in each tzimtzum. The Oid Ha'el Al Kulana is removed, and then the colors are mischalik. So, when you look at the color blue? Is the color blue reflecting the sun? And of course the answer is no. The color blue comes from the sun, but the color blue is only one wavelength of what the sun's light is. So then if I were to ask you, what about white? The white light, the pure sunlight, the direct sunlight, is that reflecting the source? Now, according to the mashals I'm describing it, the answer has to be yes and no. It's reflecting the source because every quality that exists in the source exists in this light in a unified way. But the mere fact that it's Oira Meir, that the light is able to shine and be able to be revealed, means that in terms of its quality, in terms of its eichos, it's no longer reflecting the source. And now let me get to my point. I have shared with you that light has 3 states, not 2 states. A dark state, a unified revealed state, and a divided revealed state. What would happen if there wasn't the first symptom? What would happen if the black light didn't go through the nartek, the shield around the sun, which causes it to become divided, where the Eir Ha'el al Kulana, the bittul, the mahus, is removed, and therefore the mitzias, the gili, would emerge? What would happen if black light emerged from the sun, and around the sun there was no shield that translated that light into visible light? Of course, the answer is there wouldn't be a rainbow. Because in order for there to be a rainbow, which is the infraction or diffraction of white light into various colors, the white light has to already be in a partially tzimtzumed state. What is the partially tzimtzumed state of white light? That at least it's shining. So actually, when we compare white light to colored light, to wavelengths of light, individual colors, and we say that white light is a mashal for Ein Sof, for godliness, and individual colors are mashals for individual spheres as opposed to Ein Sof. It's much more complicated than that, because even though it's true that white light is a mashal for Ein Sof, but white light is mashal for Ein Sof, which has gone through enough of a tzimtzum to be gilui. It may not yet be his chalkus, but it's already gilui. And the fact that the white light is in a state of gilui, which represents the madregis of Ein Sof, they're in a state of gilui, it allows that then there could be a second tzimtzum which would produce individual colors, that in the nimshal would be spheres. At kan hamosh. Everything I said until now is a metaphor. And according to this metaphor, you have 3 things, and like I said before, possibly 4. If you wanted to say 4, you would say the source, the light, which is a perfect reflection of the source, which means that it's dark, the light, which is a revelation of the source, but at least it's revealed, and the light, which is diffracted, which is not reflecting the source, because each wavelength, each color is separate. How does this apply to godliness? The answer would be, of course, Hashem is called a moir, a source for light, and from the moir emerges oir. From the source emerges light. For many, many reasons, including in no short measure, the idea of Ani Hashem Leishanisi, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, that light emerges from the source without Hashem being invested. The light has to reflect Him precisely, perfectly, completely. He is an Etzem, meaning Hashem, even in as much as we call him a moir, is an Etzem, is an essence, and an essence means it exists in relationship with itself, and therefore gives nothing out. So the light which emerges from him is also an Etzem. We call this in Chassidus, this is found in Samach Vav, Etzem of Ein Sof. Etzem of Ein Sof, by the way, is mentioned on the very first page of the very first Maamar of the Rebbe, in Basi Legani, Tafshirav, he mentions 3 levels of Ein Sof. Those 3 levels of Ein Sof are the 3 levels of light that I'm talking about here in this metaphor. And the first is called Etzem. It's light, but it's called in Chassidus Hamshacha V'Lei Gili. It's been drawn out of the source, but it's not revealing the source because it's in a perpetual state of dveikus and bittul to the source. And so long as it's this state of dveikus and bittul to the source, as the source is an Etzem, that means it exists only in relationship with itself. So is the light an Etzem, that means it exists only in relationship with itself and reveals to Azulas nothing. So the first level of light is Etzem of Ein Sof. And for the Kabbalists keeping score at home, Beklolos, this is Ein Sof Shalifnei HaTzimtzum. In the expression of the Samach Vav, everything that exists pre-Tzimtzum is called Kolol Ba'atzmos. Then you have Tzimtzum Rishon, the first Tzimtzum, the original Tzimtzum. What happens as a consequence of the first Tzimtzum? What happens as a consequence of the first Tzimtzum is that this idea of Eir HaMeir becomes, you have visible light. Light emerges in a visible way. Visible light, revealed light, is what we call in our culture Sovev Kalalma. Sovev Kalalma means it's a light which is hidden from the worlds. But it's not hidden from the worlds because it's hiding. It's hidden from the worlds because the world's not able to perceive it. It's actually revealed. But it's revealed on a level of Sovev. It's revealing everything that the source is. And if you, a zulas, a keli, a vessel, a recipient, are incapable of receiving a light which is a complete reflection of the source, it remains from you hidden. So Sovev Kalalman is not hidden. To the contrary, Sovev Kalalman is actually revealed. But if you are not capable of raising yourself to the level of Sovev Kalalman, it becomes in effect hidden as far as you are concerned. Now that you have Ein Sof la'achar hatzimtzum, Ein Sof which comes after the tzimtzum, which is at least revealed, notwithstand that's me'ein hamoed, you can have a second tzimtzum, which is sometimes called a parsa, where this revealed light is divided up into spheres. And this revealed light, which is divided up into spheres, comes into the vessels, the kelim of Atzilus. Chesed is blue, and Gevura is red, and so on and so forth. In each sphere, you have a different gavur, a different color. So you have three levels. The first level is where the light is dark like the source's light, and beklos, that's lifnei hatzimtzum. There's the light which is revealed, but if you're not sensitive to that revelation, it's not going to reach you because it's too infinite, and therefore it's called Sovev. Sovev means hidden. Hidden not because it's hiding, hidden because you're not able to receive it. And the third level would be the colors of the light that you go on the midas and the svidus, and this is Memmale kalam. There are many different ways these three levels are discussed in Chassidus. One of them would be that the level of dark light and revealed light and colored light would be called Loi Naga by Hatzimtzum Klal, Naga by Hatzimtzum, and Tzimtzum, respectively. The level of light which is black is Loi Naga by Hatzimtzum Klal. It's not been touched by the Tzimtzum at all, which means it's down here on this earth, just like it was Lifnei Hatzimtzum, but it remains Choshuch. Sovev Kalam, it would be called Naga by Hatzimtzum. It's not changed by the Tzimtzum, but it's affected by the Tzimtzum at least. That if you're not a cleave for it, it's from you Helam as opposed to destroying you. And Memmale kalam is Tzimtzum. Memmale kalam means a light which is actually reduced in such a way that it reaches you in a way that is revealed to you. And the defining characteristic in that statement or criterion, that thought, is that it reaches you. Another way of saying the same, and I'm going to go backwards now because I want to make a point. Memmale kalam is called Gili, revelation. And revelation means to you. Sovev Kalalman is called Helam, hidden. But hidden here means that it's revealed and too potent to reach you, so it's hidden as far as you're concerned. Etzem of Ein Sof is called L'mayla Megeder Helam V'Gili. It's above the entire criteria of revealed and hidden. It's not even hidden. And it's called Helam B'Etzem, hidden in its relationship with itself. It's not hidden from you, it's hidden in its relationship with itself. There's a famous shtikele, Tere'ed in Vayechi, I think it's Vanina Sati, which uses an expression which is very confusing to Laimdei Chasidus. I remember learning Tafshin Gimel, I believe, or Tafshin Tes, and the Rebbe Rayat quotes a shtikel Tere'ed. It didn't make any sense to me. I went to my Meshpia, and at that time my Meshpia was unable to help me, where the Rebbe Rayat is talking about Etzem of Ein Sof, the Friedrich Rebbe, the previous Rebbe. It's a quote from the Torah in Vayechi in the Esafis, and the expression that he uses is, I quote now, Eine bebechinas gilui kol kach, end quote. Which means it's not in so much of a state of revelation. Now what do those words sound like? You have revealed and you have hidden. Revealed means it's reaching you. No, I said it wrong. The Lashon of the Maamar is Eine begeder Helem kol kach. It isn't in a category of hiddenness so much. What does that mean? Go into an ordinary person and say, this is not so hidden. What's the opposite of hidden? Revealed. So you would assume when the Maamar says Eine begeder helem kol kach, it's not so hidden, you would assume it's revealed. But actually the intention is exactly the opposite. Eine begeder helem kol kach means it's not even in a hidden state. Revealed means it's reaching you. Hidden means it's not reaching you, but it's meant to reach you. It can potentially reach you. Eine beginnes helem kol kach means it has no relationship with reaching you, not on a level of Gilui, not on a level of helem. That's the highest level. Etzem of Ein Sof. So I use this mashal of the sun, which according to Chassidus either is or is not accurate. I believe that in Maamar Chassidus, there's two efanim that the Maamarim talk about the sun. According to one eifin, what I told you is correct. According to the other eifin, what I told you was incorrect. But I use the mashal to illustrate the idea that there's three levels of light, not two levels of light. Black light, Etzem of Ein Sof. White light, which is in Kabbalah language and in the Nimshal, Sovev Kalaman, and colored light, which is in the Nimshal Memmale Kalam. Having shared this with you, let's come to the Maamar. We're on line 107. It says here class 3, but it's really class 4, because last week we effectively learned nothing. We had a shmuz, a fabrengen, a discussion. Our Maamar so far is talking about the difference between Memmale Kalam and Sovev Kalam, which means in the context of the introduction I gave, the second and third levels only. We're not talking about the black light at all. We're talking only about the white light, only about the colored light. And initially, the Maamar proposed that the difference between heaven and earth, the difference between God and Neshama, is that God's relationship with the world is like Sovev Kalam, like white light, like Helem, like Naga Bayat Tzimtzum. And Neshama and Guf is like colored light, like Spheres. It's really Gilui, it's Tzimtzum Mamish. It reaches us not only in such a way that we feel that we're alive, but that the life itself is affected by the Guf. But as the Maamar progressed, and our conversations developed, particularly what we added last week, it became clear that this is not a difference between heaven and earth, because both levels exist in both places. In the human neshama, the lower levels of the neshama are Gilui, which is a mashal from Memmale Kalaman. The higher levels of the neshama are Helem, in other words, like Sovev Kalaman. And v'gam l'maylo, when you're talking about Elikus, although the Alter Rebbe initially proposed that godliness as it is on high is called Kadosh, holy, removed, but that's only one level of light. That's the level of light called Sovev Kalaman, which in the scheme of our mashal is the white light. But there is also a lower level of light and life which comes from heaven to earth, which is like Memmale Kalam. In short, and in other words, both in the mashal of the neshama as well as in the relation to Hashem in this world, the offerings that God Almighty gives this earth are dual, two. There's an offering that He gives this earth and world in a way that is limited and reaches us in such a way that it's bihislapshus, it comes down into the world, it comes down into the body in a way that the world is able to absorb it and receive it and internalize it and feel it and be felt, and the light will feel the world. And then there is the transcendent light, the Sovev Kalaman light, which is removed and hidden from the worlds. And as I explained to you last week, that's actually responsible for the element of Yesh Me'ayin as opposed to Ilo Yolo, as opposed to Hislapshus. Right. But no mention was made at all so far of the third level, black light. Now let's proceed. Once we understand that in fact, in the mashal and in the nimshal, we have both levels of Sovev and Memmale, white light and colored light, in the soul and Lamailo, we can explain the pasuk that says, Elokim Chayim, that means the living God, Umelech Haolam, who is also the king of the world. And the Alter Rebbe is analyzing these four words, Elokim Chayim, the living God, who is the king of the world. In short, he is going to argue that these four words, Elokim Chayim, Umelech Haolam, talk about godliness, which comes into worldliness, but on the level of Memmale Kalam. In other words, he begins today's class by talking about the idea that from the Eibush there also comes Chayis, his slapshus, Tfisa, Memmale Kalam. Pirush, he interprets that Mashahu Elokim Chayim, the idea that godliness exists on a level of Elokim, which gives life to the world. In other words, Shanim Shach Mimenu Chayis, from him radiates life. Lihiyes mislabish, to be revealed. B'chol nivra, on each creation. B'pnimiyusei mamish, in a way that's experienced by the creation as though it's fully revealed. Mamish. And as I explained to you before, it isn't only that we feel the godliness which comes into us, but that the godliness which we feel coming into us is feeling us and is affected by us. If we're in a better state, the godliness is uplifted, and if we're in a lesser state, the godliness is affected, which is Memmale Kalaman. This is called the Elikim, the godliness of Chayim, of revealed life. Says the Alter Rebbe Valachein, Elikim is Lashon Rabim. That's why the word Elikim is written plural. The only name of God which is Lashon Rabim is Elikim. Because when you're talking about the level of life of Memmale Kalaman, you're talking about a Chalkas. Every creation, every being gets life separately and in a different measure. L'chol nivra, each creation is different. So Elikim, which means the godliness of many types of life. Elikim, which is God in plural, is the source of Chayim, of life in a diversified way. Each creation gets life and light differently. The notion of Elikim Chayim is that it produces as many different levels of light and life as there are creations, because it's coming from Shem Elikim. Says the Rebbe, this level of Memmale Kalaman, of diversified light and life, which we illustrate with the mashal of the colors of a rainbow, Hurak Bechinas Melech Elam, is the level of relationship with the world called Melech. The Hainu Bechinas Malchus is Barech, of all the 10 spheres, it's the lowest, the spheres HaMalchus. Kameshikos, as the pasuk says, Malchus HaMalchus Kalilamim, that your kingship is the basis of kingship for all the creations. Each world lives because there's a king that sustains it, and the king that sustains each world is sustained by the original king, which is Malchus of Atzilus. Malchus and the various Malchus sustained because they have a close relationship with the others. And the level of Malchus, which relates to the world in a diversified and intimate way, is the source of the chain reaction of worlds. The idea that there's one world, and then a second world, and then a third world doesn't come from Sovev Kalaman. To the contrary, from Sovev Kalaman alone, all the worlds will be equal. Dafke from Memmale Kalaman, you have diversity. Cause and effect of higher and lower, like a head and a body. The higher world would be like the head, and the lower worlds would be like the body. The real basis for these distinctions is Memmale Kalaman. Line 112, as opposed to when you're talking about godliness, which is on a level called Muhus Ve'atzmus, says the Rebbe Kaddish removed, was holy and removed. So now, this line, which as you see we put in a paragraph all its own, is which level? At least Sovev Kalaman. Or I should say, it includes Sovev Kalaman. The black light, which so far in our Maamar has never appeared, is certainly Kaddish removed. In fact, you could make the case that you can't even call it Kaddish. It's removed from Kedusha, it's black. Sovev Kalaman, which is at least revealed light, but it's revealed light without dividing itself up into colors and without going into the worlds and into the vessels in a way of Islapshus and Tvisa, is Kaddish removed. So we are going to be safe. And we're going to say that when it says him, Hutzei Vatzmusi is Barach, Kaddish removed is talking about Sovev Kalaman, not about the black light. Why? Because so far our Maamar has made no mention of the black light. And we continue, 113. And you'll see soon how the third level is going to sort of find its way into the conversation, almost by mistake. Ukemashal, for example, there is a king, and a king governs. Naturally and obviously a king governs through a whole host of ministers and officers and clerks and representatives who do his work. But in the end, the king governs with the presence of his personality. In other words, all the people who assist and support the king are motivated, are cooperating because of the presence of the king. The presence of the king itself is the basis for the government, it's the basis for the organization, it's the basis for how everything manifests in a constructive and a healthy way. What is the king investing in his government, in his community, in his country, from himself to make it work, to be the cohesive force, and so on and so forth? And the answer is, there's a hispashtus hamamshalav ha'adnus, From the king radiates what's called a hispashtus, an expansion of king's dominance and mastery over the world. So the Alter Rebbe is going to argue that the king's real personality, the king's real essence, is not shared with his subjects. What the king is by himself, the subjects don't know at all. From that is going to radiate what we'll call a light, for lack of words, which is his sense of aloofness and distance from his subjects, a sense of domination, which the subjects are able to feel. And that's the basis for the king's governance. He invests his personality, he invests his presence in the society to create order and leadership, but his investment is also only a light of what he really is. With this force of his presence, which makes him dominant, who manhiga, he runs the country. And there's a sense of awe for the king because they sense that presence. Says the Rebbe, line 114, Hare atzmos hamelech. What the king is himself, what the king is in relationship with himself, einei nitfas b'yan shamadin, is altogether unknown to the subjects. Rak shmoi levad. What the subjects get from the king is not what we're calling the essence of the king as he exists in relationship with himself, but the name of the king. The name means what the king reveals of himself to affect this civilization. Nikra leim is called upon them. And that's the basis for his dominance and his fear. Now, if you're paying attention, you have here at least three things. The first thing is atzmos hamelech, what the king is, that he's not sharing with the subjects at all. The second thing is shmoi shel hamelech, the name of the king, which is the light, or so to speak, the presence of the king, which is sharing with his subjects, to create the order, the energy of cohesiveness, of cooperation, of governance. And then there's a third thing. The third thing is the king is a smart guy. He actually goes to meetings and gives instructions and tells people what to do. Those involvements of the king are not the king himself. They're not even the king, the light of the king's presence. That's the king's practical advice. So the three ideas that I just listed, the king by himself, and the light of the king's presence, which creates the energy of the kingdom, and then the actual advice and instruction that the king gives, is going to correspond to the three levels of black light, white light, and colored light. In other words, to Etzem Aved Sof, Sovev Kalaman, and Memmale Kalaman. And part of the reason I gave you the lengthy introduction, because as you learn today's Maamar, clearly you cannot presume two levels of light, you have to presume a third, and I had to introduce the third one to you, and I hope I did it to some degree of satisfaction. Same is true spiritually speaking. There is life from God reaching earth. That's of course Memmale Kol Almin. It's drawn from the kingship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shemebechinas Malchus, from his kingship. Nimshech li is mispashe to mislabish. It expands and reveals Hachayis, life. Begimul Eilim Esanal, in the three worlds we discussed earlier. Ganeid Ne'elyon. Ganeid Netach Ne'elamazeh. And of course, since we're now talking about Memmale Kol Almin, we're talking about a light and a life, which is in each world revealed, in each world nitfas, affected, and in each world different. Vegam, in addition, be'emes muvan mimashal hamaluch. If you think about the metaphor of kingship, you can also explain, using that mashal, the level of Sovev Kol Almin. Shebechinas ha'is nasus. In addition to what the king gives his subjects in a personal way, which is like Memmale Kol Almin, there is the presence of the king that's remote, that's distant, that creates the energy of the civilization, which is Shebechinas hisnasus, which is an exaltedness or remoteness or an aloofness or a distance from his subject. Hu bechinas makif umimal la'ancha medina, is hidden from and above the subjects. This is also something the king gives his subjects, but in this case, it's not giving the subjects in an individuated way, rather he's giving them all from a distance, which is the mashal for Sovev Kol Almin. Says the Rebbe, "V'kach b'chinas mechusei yisbarach." The same is true in the Nimshal b'chinas Sovev v'makol elamas. So there is the Memmale kol almin. In other words, what the king actually gives in terms of counsel and in terms of investment, and then there is the awe of the king, which is the Sovev kol almin, which is the indirect presence of the king in the nation, and then there's what the king is not giving at all. What the king is, that's Etzem. Rak, from the Sovev kol almin, from the awe that the king inspires from his distance, there is a secondary idea, ziv ha'ara mimena, a ray, a trace of the kingship energy which a king gives his subjects, nimshach lihiyes mislabesh ba'elamis. That emerges to reveal itself and manifest in the world in a personalized, individuated way, which is the idea of Memmale kalam. V'hu inyan ziv ha'shchina, it's a ray of the shchina. So we'll call shchina Sovev kalalmin, and ziv ha'shchina malkom. If you're familiar with the Shari'ichat ve'emunah, in Perek Yud, the Alter Rebbe over and over again uses the expressions Oir v'ziv, and you have it in Tanya in many places, but on Shari'ichat ve'emunah Perek Yud is actually a sicha. Oir v'ziv is Sovev Memmale. Oir would be the Shmei Shal HaMelech, and the ziv would be the Spashtas Ha'or. Shenimshech lehiyes, this ray of Shechina, this Memmale which comes from Sovev, is drawn, this is the investment, the proactive investment of the Creator in the creation, mamish. And because of this lowest level of light, there are different worlds, higher worlds and lower worlds, and the chain reaction of worlds. Cause and effect. Is as I mentioned before, says the Alter Rebbe, even the level of Sovev Kalama, which is called his name, the level of the white light, which is the energy of his kingship, which is the basis for the energy of his governance. Who niskav lavad is removed or exalted by itself. Only a trace, a ray of Shmai, in other words, only a Memmale from the Sovev is aleres v'shemayim v'chulu, is revealed and invested in each world individually. So, Memmale kalalmin is called Ziv Hashchina. Memmale kalalmin is the chayas element which comes from Malchus, which is Beislapshus, and Sovev kalalmin is Makif. V'zehu. And this, of course, explains when we say, Ata Kodesh v'Shimcha Kodesh, you're holy and your name is holy. What is the meaning of Ata Kodesh v'Shimcha Kodesh? So, on a very, very simple level, you would translate Ata Kodesh v'Shimcha Kodesh as Ata would be Sovev Kalam and Shimcha would be a Malacham. But I think the Alter Rebbe's intention is not that. Ata is Atzmus and Shimcha is Sovev. Ata Kodesh means how God is removed by himself, which is not Helem Kolkach. It's not even hidden. It's Helem B'Etzem. Etzem Avein Tov. The idea of black light, which exists only in relationship with itself, that's Ata Kodesh. And Shimcha Kodesh is a Sovev. The name of Hashem is removed from the world because even the name of Hashem is only available to the civilization in an indirect way. What's available to the civilization directly is only a ha'ara of that, a ziv of that, which we call Memmale kalam. Okay? So by giving you an introduction and establishing that there's three levels of light, Etzem, Sovev, Memmale, I avoided incredible confusion if I had sort of introduced the ideas in the course of my learning. And we move on. We know that it says in Pasuk, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The Jew has to pay attention to the Achdus Hashem. And the last letter of the last word of Shema Yisrael is the big Dalet. And the Rebbe is going to say momentarily after the Dalet of Echad comes Baruch Shem Keved Malchus Le'elam Vod. And here again they're going to come to represent in effect Sovev Kalam and Memmale. Says the Rebbe Shenoim is that the letter, the single letter Dalet, which is large, is the mitzvah Malchus Yisbarach. It's an allusion to Hashem's kingship. Kinei does this know from Kabbalah, and therefore the Rebbe says, I don't understand. V'imkein tzarich lahavin. If the Dalet of Echad represents Malchus, why do you have to have afterwards Baruch Shem Kaved Malchus Le'elam Vod Halei Kvar Nirmas Inyan Malchusei Bedaled Rabasi de Echad. The last letter of the pasuk Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The Dalet of that Echad represents Malchus. So why do you have to have Baruch Shem Kaved Malchus Le'elam Vod separate? And the teretz is, we're on line 125. The answer is Achad Inyan. The answer is Ki Adaled Rabasi de Echad. It may be true that the letter Dal represents Malchus. However, it shows on the level of Malchus, which exists in relation with itself, namely Sovev Kalam. It's higher than being revealed and higher than Memmale Kalam. Pardon me. Bebriya Yetzirah see the lower worlds. And accordingly, Hadalid, Sitrin, Mizech, Ma'ariv, Tzaf, and Daram, the four sides, east, west, north, south, are included in one letter, and they're bottled in their form. There's no division. In one letter, you have all directions, means to say all directions are unified. So the Dalid of Echad would represent Sovev Kalaman, and of course, above the Dalid of Echad would be something even higher, which is not even revealed as Sovev Kalaman, which is Atmos. And Baruch Shem Kived Malchus Le'Levad would be Memmale Kalaman. So in other words, you have two levels of Malchus. The Ha'ara, the Ziv of Malchus, which is Memmale Kalaman, and the Etzem of Malchus, which is Sovev Kalaman, but there's something altogether above Melucha, which is Etzem. And he explains, in the words of Baruch Shem, which is talking about the manifestation of his kingship, in Yin Gimel Teves Eli, of three separate words that all denote Ha'ara, a lesser light, Memmale Kalaman, is because Humashanim Shachaziv. Because a ray is coming. Midas Malchusi is Baruch, and the kingship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Leslabish, to be revealed. Beteich is Helemis, in the innards, in the insides of each world differently. Bebechin as Memmale Kalaman Mamish, in a way which is fully revealed. Keyachapei el benifel, the proactive power of the Creator has been invested in the creation. Whereas great as He is, little details matter to Him. And from this koyach, which Hashem invests in creation, there's a division. In general, it's the gimel chalakim, three parts: Ganeid, Na'elyin, Ganeid, Na'tachten, and Elam Hazeh, which is of course B'ri Yitzir and Asiyah. Bechinas Brasle V'Tata Vasisa, B'ri Yitzir Asiyah. But of course, specifically, there are so many more divisions. Okay, and accordingly, while they're Gimel Tevis, you have to represent this is Chalkos in three separate words as opposed to the one letter of the Dalet, which is Shem Kved Malchus. When again the Rabbi repeats, Peter Ba Shem Kved Malchus Leilam Vad Hainu. What is the meaning of Shem Kved Malchus? Sha'onu Mamshichem Liyes Hamshachas Mebechinas Memmale Kalaman. That light or life should be drawn from His essence and from His light to produce a lesser light of Memmale Kalaman. So what do you have? You have the Daled of Echad, which is Sovev Kalaman, and Shem Kved Malchus Leilam Vad, which is Memmale Kalaman. And we say that the Daled of Echad is also only a Ha'ara because it includes the four dimensions, the four sides, but it's pardon me, it's a concealed state, and in Memmale Kalaman and in Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Leilam Vad, it's divided up. So again, we're speaking so far more or less about only two levels, Memmale Kalaman and Sovev Kalaman, but we're very helped, I believe, by the fact that I established that there's three levels, Etzem, Sovev, and Memmale. Line 131. V'zeu shekosov, and according to everything we said so far, we can explain something else. Ki imcha, with you, Makeir Chaim is the source of life. It's a pasuk. This pasuk, there's a Maamar Chassidus in Samach Vav on the pasuk Imcha Makeir Chaim. It's one of the pasukim you say in the morning when you put on your talis if you're married. I heard once, I just have to say, a joke or story. I've been talking philosophy all night long, and here's a story that you're probably never going to hear. I remember from whom I heard it, but I'm not going to say his name, and I wonder how he knows it. The previous Rebbe wasn't well, and the nature of his illness was that he had to have a lot of air, a lot of fresh air, to have a high pressure of oxygen because his respiration, his lungs were very, very weak. So if you brought people into a room to simply breathe his air, he would gasp. He needed to have a lot of oxygen. So his room, his dining room, which is where he fabrengt, could not be full of people because it would cause him stress. Not because anybody was pushing him, not because the room was hot, because there was literally less air. So there was a whole tug and tuck about who to let in, who not to let in, and there were all kinds of rules and exceptions. One day it was announced that they would let in anybody who's married and not anybody, and no bachrim. So every bacher came along and said, I'm married. So they had to appoint a sentry, someone to stand by the door who would sieve out, who would be able to discern who's married and who's single. So this is the way I heard the story. Who did they appoint? The Rebbe's and Chaya Mushka, the previous Rebbe's daughter, our Rebbe's Rebbe's. And she stood by the door and she asked everybody, are you married? And of course everybody was married. So she asked them a simple question. Zog ma yokar. Now if you're a bachelor, if you're a bacher, you're going to say, was is ma yokar? And then she would say, Geg is dreit. Who knows Mayakar? When you put on film, when you talis, and you wrap your talis, say Mayakar, Chaz Chalim, and you say Kimcha Makir Chaim Sheikhan Rebbetzin, who never put on a talis in her life, at least as far as we know, had this idea. I don't know if she had her husband's help or not, but this is what she did. They came up the steps. She said to you know Mayakar, you can come in. If you didn't know Mayakar, and no Bacher knows Mayakar. Anyway, so I told you a story, so you can take something home with you also. But if you look at the pasuk Ki Imcha Makir Chaim, you have many different things here. You have Chaim, which I'm going to tell you right now is Memmale Kalaman. You have Makir Chaim, the source of life, which I'm going to tell you right now is Sovev Kalaman. And then Imcha Makir Chaim. Makir Chaim, which is Sovev Kalaman, is considered Imcha, with God. So God becomes a third entity at least. So the Alter Rebbe observes, it doesn't say you are the source of life. You say with you is the source of life. Meaning to say life is one thing. Makir Chaim is the second thing. And whatever Hashem is a third thing. Now, of course, you and I know that really Hashem isn't the third thing, but the fourth thing. Because the third thing is Etzem Ein Sof, and the fourth thing is Moir. So even saying Imcha Makir Chaim isn't bottle v'tafel to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but bottle v'tafel to the level of Ein Sof, which is called Etzem. And he explains, if it were to say Atam Makir Chaim, that would mean to say there's only two levels of light. There's Chaim and Makir Chaim, Sovev Kalaman, and Sovev Kalaman is Hashem. Shehu Baruch Hu, God Almighty Himself, Hu HaMakir is the source, namely the Sovev Kalaman, from which flows Haneveim, and which flows HaChaim life, namely Memmale Kalaman, B'Yishtalshos Ilaviyol. Says the Alter Rebbe, V'zeh Le'dachan Klal Kanal, cannot be. It's impossible to see Hashem as the white light, which is the source for the colored light. The only way to understand it is that the colored light comes from the white light light comes from the essence of the light, and the essence of the light comes from Him. And as far as He's concerned, Sovev Kalaman, like Memmale Kalaman, is inconsequential and insignificant. It's logically impossible that something should come directly from Him. In short, Memmale Kalaman. Now remember what I told you in the beginning of the Shir. If you have black light, and you have colored light, and you have no white light, can you have colors? And of course, we all agreed, since I'm here talking to you over the internet, and you can't scream at me and argue with me, except by typing me a note. If there wouldn't be white light, there would be no diffraction to make colored light. If you don't have Sovev, you can't have Memmale. So Sovev is not Hashem. It's not Etzem, but it's Makir Chaim. It sets up the possibility for Memmale. But because Sovev is setting up the possibility for Memmale, just like Memmale is separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Sovev is also separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu by the virtue of the fact that it's Makir Chaim. Says the pasuk Imcha Makir Chaim. Even Sovev Kalaman is Tafel U'Batalach, and it's not one with him. If light came directly from him meaning to say the Etzem of it itself, dark light, in a framework of the laws of causality, the world was never be created, and certainly not the limited and measured world. Because there's a Memmale Kalaman, and the Memmale Kalaman comes from Sovev Kalaman, and the Sovev Kalaman comes from Etzem, that's why you can have a world. Therefore the pasuk says that there's life, and then there's the source of life, and then there is this idea that even the source of life is Imcha. The source from which flows the life of Memmale Kalaman, which is going to manifest in the world according to the principles of cause and effect, Hu Imcha, is seconded to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only is Memmale Kalaman seconded to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but Makir Chaim, Sovev Kalaman, is also secondary to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's saying Leima Shu Davar Atafel Batla Zachat, secondary to him. Yes, whereas Ki Makir Zeh, because even this source, even this Sovev, is who Anikra Alma is Galia, is a revealed world. Ve'nikra Memmale Kalaman, and it's called Memmale Kalaman, and obviously it doesn't say what I wanted to say, right? But I don't think I'm wrong. I think the pshat is, it calls forward from it a Memmale Kalaman. Shemislabish, that the Memmale Kalaman level of this light can be revealed and manifest. B'teicha elam is within the world, b'pnimiyusam in a revealed way. Sha'az, that then and only then, shayach leim and yishtashat, only because of Memmale Kalaman can there be levels and worlds, as I explained before. In his bio, we explained, Shebechin as Memmale Kalaman, who in Ziva Shchina. Memmale Kalaman is only a ray from Shchina. In other words, it's a ray and a trace alone of what? Not of the Eibishter, not even of the level of the air called Etzem, but only the level of air called Gili. In other words, Sovev Kalaman. V'gam, moreover, Nimshach Adei Tzimtzum Atma is an incredible Tzimtzum to produce Memmale Kalaman. B'tchilat the outset, she agilu irakatipa miyukiyanus. You have to reduce Sovev Kalaman to such a degree that it can produce Memmale Kalaman. Oz achakach, only then nimshach mizeh can it draw forward makela b'chinas ishtalshalus, the level of Memmale Kalaman, which can be the source of ishtalshalus, but the light, which is the source of that, is also only imcha, tafel bottle lakadosh baruch hu, namely Sovev Kalaman. And he explains, v'hinei, b'chinas as if this light of Memmale Kalaman is tafel u'batel b'mithyuth l'gabe makede, is batel to its source. Kebitl tipa echad b'yam, like the insignificance of a drop compared to the whole ocean. Ilu hoya hayam b'li gavul, even if the sea were infinite and one drop is finite, that would be the mashal about the ratio of Memmale Kalaman to Sovev Kalaman, aderech mashal. Ukebitl devashemesh b'shemesh l'chein nikri imcha b'chol. Therefore, Memmale Kalaman and even Sovev Kalaman is called imcha batel ta'kadosh baruch. Aval hu baruch hu, Hashem himself, who is higher even than Sovev Kalaman, as he is by himself, moved is removed from being removed from the worlds. Now I am conceding that some of the words, some of the lines in the last two paragraphs didn't read well the way I translated it. And I accept that. And if we would go back and read the Alter Rebbe's words as the Alter Rebbe meant them, we would have a lot of questions about how he uses the word Moker Chaim. So I mistranslated it. I translated it in a way that retains the form that I gave you in my introduction to my Shir. And before you get too angry at me, understand that that's how it's explained in later Maamar. There's a Maamar from the Rebbe. Says Asas Bahavaya. It's a Mugadik Maamar. And that Maamar says Asas Bahavaya has this Kimcha Meker Chaim in it. And he explains it precisely as I did. So I permitted myself to read into the Alter Rebbe's words that interpretation, although the words of the Alter Rebbe here arguably mean something slightly differently, which is quite difficult to comprehend. So I apologize, and I'm moving on. So we're retaining our form. Etzem, Sovev, Memmale. Sovev is Moker Chaim, Memmale is Chaim, and Imcha means even higher than Sovev Kalam. Continues, the Rebbe on line 141, this also explains the Siddur. You are the first. And you are the last. And besides you, we have no king, and of course it's understood. First is before creation, last is after creation. And besides you means during creation. Says the Rebbe, this means that Ato, Hashem himself, who is Baruch as he is in relationship with himself. Who Muvdal is altogether removed to Rishon for Achren, he's both the beginning and the end. That as far as he is concerned, nothing has changed. Before creation, during creation, after creation, it's all exactly the same, because everything is Batal HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the highest levels. While V'chayis Kol Ha'elamais, the only investment Hashem makes in the lower worlds, is Rakma B'chinas Melech, from the level of Melech. V'kanal, as we discussed in the beginning of today's Shir, B'pidish Elokim Chayim Melech Elam. So Atu Rishon, Atu Achrein goes on Sovev Kalam. U'Baldachein Lano Melech goes on Memmale Kalam. Says the Rebbe on line 144, Harei we now know that Inyan Upirish Kodesh, the translation of the word holy, Shehu Leima, which means to indicate who Yisbarach Kodesh removed L'Garamar is holy and removed, Umechaya Ha'elamis, and his relationship with the world is Shaleya Yedei Slapshil B'techiyus, and it's not that he's revealed within them and grasped by them. Al Derech and Neshama Mechayis Aguf, the soul comes into a body, that's Sovev Kalaman. But in addition to Sovev Kalaman, there is a level of Memmale Kalaman, which could compare to the Neshama which was lavish in the Guf. 146. V'agamkin is by agamkin. Is it not true that we explained sheyesh bechinas chayes elkus? There's a level of godliness which is hamislabesh b'pnimiyusam, which does reveal itself in the world. Like a soul comes into a body, and the answer is that's a trace of the Shechina, which is called the Ha'ara Ha'ara, secondary light. We're going to talk about Ha'ara Ha'ara next week at length. So the Alter Rebbe is, in this Perek, interpreting a number of psukim and statements from the Siddur and so on. But he's maintaining this idea that by Hashem there is also a Memmale and also a Sovev. The Sovev is what he meant when he spoke about Lei Shanisi. The Memmale is involved in his Shanisi. But there's also a third Madrig, which means Sovev Kalaman and higher, and Sovev Kalaman is by, and we discussed that it's Kodesh, removed, list removed. Even his name, which is the level of Sovev, even his name is removed and elevated. Only the Memmale Kalam, the Shmei of his name is Al Eretz V'Shemayim, which is the Madrega of Ha'ara Ha'ara Kanal. And again, the meaning of the words Ha'ara Ha'ara I'm going to discuss Bli Neder next week. So there's Memmale Kalaman, there's Sovev Kalaman, and there's Atzmas Aved Ein Sof. And the Mitzvah next week, we're going to be discussing this whole topic more. The entire Chiddush, what's novel about next week's class, is he introduces the concept of Shaidas, hair, and explains why hair is a mashal for Memmale Kalalman. I could have crunched it all together. If you look at the next Shia, you see that the whole thing is 55 lines, and you have so many lines that we're not going to learn. It's more like 40 lines of Maamar, but we're going to do it separately. And the topic that's going to propel us as we move through the Maamar is going to be the question of what is Shaidas, what are hairs? And one of the forms that are going to be used to explain it is this idea called Ha'ara Ha'ara, a light of a light, or an indirect light.